Today's guest is Christie Mann, a best-selling author, executive coach, and embodiment teacher who's redefining what it means to lead with courage, consciousness, and emotional depth. She's the co-founder of Uplevel, a leadership development company trusted by some of the world's largest organizations, where she helps leaders integrate emotional intelligence into real business results. With 2 decades of corporate experience and a master's in spiritual psychology, Christie blends strategy with soul to unlock human potential at every level. She's also the author behind The Adventures of Lil Sass, a children's book series that sparked a movement around emotional literacy for all ages. Whether in boardrooms, classrooms, or youth detention centers, Christie is a bold voice for human-centered leadership. Welcome, Christie. Thank you so much for joining me.
See, did you write that bio? Because that sounded really good. I don't know if I did all those things.
You like it?
I
Well,
really like it. Thank
you are
you.
pretty awesome. So I've been lucky enough to be in your sphere for almost a decade now, I guess. And it's been awesome. I'm so happy that you're able to join me on here. It's nice for me to get to interview you on this side. You have your own podcast, so I see you interviewing. And I've interviewed you once on yours, but now mine.
Yes. Yes. And I'm so excited for your listeners and for you to be bringing this expression of your purpose to the world. And thanks for having me and including me and for being such an incredible collaborator all these years.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is partially being birthed because of everything that I've learned from working with y'all for this, so long about, finally seeing in all aspects. It's not just being good at work, productivity wise, but it's being seen as a whole person. And so, of course, I had to have you on because that's exactly what you do. So I know we were talking, I think it was last week, about how when you first entered the corporate world, you were quite a phenom, and you quickly realized that you didn't know what leadership really meant to be, or really meant to, how to do. um Tell me about your initial entry into the corporate world and what that was like.
Yeah. Well, and I really didn't know how to be or do when it came to leadership. So your language there was perfect. Well, I think like many of your listeners who have had a path of working inside organizations, I was a high performer as individual contributor and was promoted into a leadership position really far before I would say I was ready for. And there was just so much naivete around what does it mean to lead. And I really thought a leader is a person who has all the answers, and this is going back over 2 decades ago. And so I was working with McDonald's restaurants at the time, and I was working in marketing communications and community relations. And I'd been promoted to lead a team across the province of Ontario to support them in their local markets to drive sales and the profile of their restaurants locally. And I was leading people who had been with the organization longer than I had been alive. And I came in with all my templates and the ways I had been successful. I was like, just fill this out and you'll have success. And I was doing a lot of telling. We were not getting the results. The team revolted. They did not like me one iota. And I wasn't sleeping. So my well being was definitely suffering. I had major imposter syndrome. I really didn't understand what it meant to inspire and motivate, influence people. So I asked a franchisee that I had done some work with. I said, "How do you lead people?" And he said, "You coach them." I was like, "But this isn't sports. This is business. This is leadership." He said, "Exactly. Go do some research." So I got on the www, did a little Googling and Googled coaching and leadership and realized that it was about listening, deeply listening to people. I was like, "Oh, well, I was not listening to anybody, including myself." It was about being curious and asking questions. I wasn't doing any of that because I was just telling and then showing. And there was no supporting them to come up with their own way of doing the things. So it was a light bulb moment that I really needed to learn how to be a coaching leader, a coaching manager. And I hadn't yet found the program or the course, but I just started to show up more coach like, which for me meant being more of my natural self. So there was this bit of a relief that I was like pretending to be a leader. But really, what I needed to do is just show up more like a whole human who has flaws, who doesn't have all the answers, who genuinely cares about these people and the work that we're doing. I wanted us all to succeed. And naturally, I was a curious person. So these like coach like ways of being, I was so relieved that I could like use those in a business setting and in a leadership setting. Within 3 months, the performance shifted. Within 4 months, the business needle moved. And that was my big aha. That if I was going to be a successful people manager, people leader, I needed to be a leader, a manager who coached. Here we are 2 decades later.
That's amazing. I love that
That's what I'm up
story.
to. Yeah.
I love that story because, it came rather organically. And I do know that you are a very curious person, as am I. A reason why this is called a curiosity driven podcast. Um, so I love that you turned that curiosity and had the wherewithal to go, you know what I'm doing isn't working. This is not going to work. So, and then I know you went on to study a variety of things. You're an ever learner like I am and constantly learning new things. So, how did you transition from working corporate and, you found success as a coaching leader there? How did that transition into now you have your own company where you go in and coach the coaches at these large organizations?
Yeah, so we train internal coaches and in some of the world's largest and most influential organizations, but we also train people managers in the coaching skills. Again, my story is like I want everyone who's working with humans to have this skill set. So the transition was very organic, like you said, like how my process of realizing that I needed support and I need to develop myself as a leader. So when I had that aha, I researched multiple different coaching schools and I found the Coactive Training Institute, which at the time was called the Coaching Training Institute. And it was kind of neat. I was traveling through Asia with an ex boyfriend, and his friend who we were staying with said, I told him that I wanted to transition into this world of leadership development and coaching. He said, oh, that's what my godfather does. And I didn't even realize at the time that there was a whole profession around it. So I felt like I had won the lottery when he connected me to his godfather, and he also educated me on the industry. So then I found CTI and I went to the website and the language resonated deeply. Like, this is a language that's innate in me already. And I feel like these are my people. So I put my credit card down for the whole thing, which at that time would have been a significant amount of money for me. I mean, even now, it's a very significant spend. And I did that because it was a full body knowing that this was my path. I think I still thought at the time I would use it to continue my path in marketing and communications to be a successful people manager. But I took the first course and I saw this model of leadership that I had never seen before. First of all, there was two people at the front of the room. They call it co-leading. And the way that they blended and led and shared power, shared space, yes, and at each other, it was so masterful and magical. They were also a demonstration of vulnerability. They really showed what it meant to be an open hearted leader, a vulnerable leader. They went first. They would share topics that were personal and true for them so we could practice the coaching competencies on them. And my whole world was rocked in that that's who I want to be when I grow up. I want to be a leader who goes first. I want to be a leader who leads with her heart that's open. I want to be a leader who's vulnerable and not afraid to share my whole humanness. And so I decided to leave the land of marketing, to leave the land of selling cheeseburgers. And I just went for the whole thing with, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. I think I had an event marketing business a little bit in the in between, but it was like while I was doing the training, I was running the event marketing company and we merged it into another business, and I went on as their internal coach while I was doing certification. So it was like a really incredible alchemy that it all worked out. And the organization benefited from it. I got my training hours, and became it was the beginning of becoming like a professional coach. And then I had my eyes set on being faculty for the Coactive Training Institute. Because what I really wanted to do was to train other people how to do this.
That's awesome. I know you won't call yourself one of the elders, but you are actually dipping into that zone right there because you have been in it since before, coaching was recognized as a thing, really. So yeah, you got to start realizing that about yourself.
It it's just been I think I was telling you it's been happening lately where I'm not the youngest person in the room anymore. When like I was really lucky to get into this profession young. And so I've been for the past 20 years one of the youngest people in the room, but it started to shift for the past 5 years where there's like a generation that's come up. And yeah, when you've been doing something for almost 2 decades, there is a elderhood. And, the way we talk about it via the Uplevel podcast and with our work with our elders is not necessarily about age. It is about wisdom. And wisdom is from lived experience, and also I think a willingness to be of service to others and to share the good, the bad, the ugly in service of their growth. So I will receive the badge of your hood. I honored. I'd be honored, and that's not taking away from my beloved elders who it's a big part of my work to honor them and showcase their work and just who they are in the world and what they've meant for this profession.
Yeah, it's been absolutely fascinating everything I've learned from you and your partner, Rachel, just over the years. I know she focuses on different aspects and she likes being behind the camera, whereas, yeah, and she likes doing the stuff that neither you and I like to do, like the books and all those boring things. But
That's her. And loving Rachel,
yeah,
the projector to my generator. It's like the perfect sisterhood.
yeah, yeah, she's awesome. But, one of the things that I know that I've heard you talk about in the past was how a female that you approached wasn't willing to help you. And that's just something that you and I are just like, what? I couldn't even fathom slamming the door in another woman's face. Like, oh my gosh. So tell me, for the woman out there who's maybe in that position where she's looking for some guidance and leadership help, but is getting the door shut in her face, where can they go, or what should be their first step in helping, or helping themselves rather?
Yeah, it is so heartbreaking. I really hope it's better out there now compared to 2 decades ago. Oh, yeah, because I really had the door shut in my face from a lot of women that were further along the journey than me. And um, so I think if anyone's experiencing that, and not just women, but if they're just feeling like there's no one that's opening the door to support them in their growth and development, hire a coach. I mean, we didn't have coaching 2 decades ago when we were coming up in the mainstream way that it is now. A lot of organizations offer it or they have internal coaches. And of course, there's tons of exceptional leadership and executive coaches out there. I think we all need the sounding board. We need a place where someone is solely championing us and seeing us maybe bigger than we hold ourselves, identifying our saboteurs where we get in our own way, our head trash, and helping us have more faculty over that. And also maybe telling us the hard truths, but from a place of love and from a place of growing the human. And this is what coaches do. So if you're not finding it in your workplace or in your community, we can hire those incredible humans now.
And I love that you bring that up because, that's something that can be done at any level. It's not just for executives, it can be for any level of person. And I know you guys have an online course, which makes it really affordable for people to receive this high level training. But, even working one on one, it's I can tell you from all the stuff I have learned from coaches over the last several years, it's so much more than anyone would ever pay. The ROI is immense. And I was actually at a women's event last night, and somebody said something about the coaching they've received over the last several years has brought them bigger growth than the therapy they've received. And they weren't knocking therapy. They were just saying that the therapy kind of helped them heal, but then the coaching helped them soar. And I just thought that was a really
That's
good distinction because they can work
great
together so
distinction.
well. Yeah.
Definitely.
And I know when you brought up the saboteur, that's something that I have found really interesting is that when we start to get the emotional intelligence and we understand that it's not just benefiting us to kind of understand what's going on in our heads, it's actually affecting the entire organization. And, it's like the example that I'm specifically thinking of is like you and I working together, if your saboteur comes out and triggers my saboteur, and then I spiral, and then the work isn't as good, and blah, blah, blah. It's like so
Yeah,
simple. But once we acknowledge, oh, here's my saboteur. I think she's trying to come up. Let's see. And, and you and I also having a conversation. And I think that's one of the cool things you do as a coach is you design that alliance at the very beginning of a relationship to say like, okay, how are we going to communicate? If the bad times come, how are we going to be with each other? And you kind of give permission that kind of knocks it all out so that when you inevitably do have some sort of issue, you're able to work through it much smoother than making assumptions like we often do.
completely. And there's so much good stuff that you shared there. So like I'll start with the design alliance because this is something we use in coaching to establish the relationship and really get clear on roles, responsibilities, how we'll be with each other. And then if you take that format and apply it to working relationships, whether it's like in our case, client, vendor, or a manager and a direct report, or Rachel and I, two
Yeah.
co-leaders, and you are deliberate in talking about what's working, what do we want to build upon and improve, how are we doing at receiving feedback, and how do you like to receive feedback? I mean, you and I have talked about this multiple times over the years, right? We have different ways that we want to receive the information. I think it's so important to slow down and have those conversations, and they're ongoing. It's not just like at the beginning when you start working with somebody, but it's something to be revisiting and ensuring it's like part of the practice. And then you talked about this concept we call saboteur in the coactive world, the CTI world, and I call it head trash. We've been delivering. We have it off the shelf. It's like a 3-hour virtual session about how to harness your head trash. And in the times that we're living through, the level of complexity, people need to have this level of self awareness to know that it's not always my best self that's in the meeting or hitting send on that email. Sometimes it is my head trash because I'm exhausted or I'm triggered or I'm feeling like, underappreciated. And so when we go through a process of bringing more light to the one in us or the ones in us that might stand in our way, and we have the courage to share that information with colleagues and bring them in, like, hey, if you see me, like my team knows and you're part of it, like when I get like really restricted and tight and like what's going on with this, it's likely that I'm exhausted and I'm holding way too much. And so Miss Perfect Pants has entered the building, and that is a sign to be like, okay, she needs rest. So, my colleagues knowing like everything's okay, this is where this is at, and like, hey, are you taking some time off soon? Like, the gentle like reminders of like it sounds like maybe Miss Perfect Pants is in the room. This is a game changer, especially again during the times we're living through. And we need to get to this level of intimacy in the workplace because we have no choice. If you are leading a team or running a company and have yet to bring in professional development that supports people to heighten their self awareness, you're not going to survive these times. You definitely won't thrive. It's a necessity, it's an absolute necessity.
I can attest to that is, just in how I've used what I've learned from y'all to create the culture at our company here at Be a Better Brand. And, our team knows, hey, I've got this head trash going on. I've got this junk going on, and I know it's affecting my work. Any suggestion on how I can, crack it open, or, just wanted to let you know, I know I've been off this week. Here's why, or, various things. They know they can be honest, and I can give them feedback, and we can be honest with each other. And I have found that to be more beneficial than if we just powered through and didn't say anything, because then it just gets worse and worse and worse. And then productivity goes down. A lot of times when people hear coaching, I'm in Texas, Houston specifically. So we have a lot of oil and gas and those industries where, oh, I'm not going to do that feelings crap. Um,
Mm. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, well, it's not feelings crap. It's actually science that we're dealing with here. And actually dipping into the science aspect to work with it, and not, it's not, oh, I'm going to go cry in the corner. That, nice. But I think especially as women, you know, if somebody sees us and they're, oh God, they're going to cry, or, it's like, I don't know. What do you say to people when they go, I'm not going to do that feelings crap?
Yeah. Luckily, I'm in a place where I don't have people saying that to me anymore, because we are working with the most high performing organizations, with the most high performing people who understand that the soft skills are the hard skills, and that the hard skills are what are going to differentiate them. And like I said before, it's going to have them move beyond survival to thriving. And they just get it. I just came back from France with a world leading organization training 40 of their top sales managers in Europe. And this is going viral across the whole organization. They just understand that we are whole humans who go to work. And gone are the days of compartmentalization. The pandemic blew that out of the friggin' water. And if people are still pretending that we're not whole humans going to work, they're dinosaurs and their business is not going to survive. I think it's that simple. There is so much like business cases around this. You'll see that the organizations that are thriving are the ones that are investing in their people and giving their managers skills to be with the whole person. It doesn't mean you negate results. You get better results when you care for the people and you give them space to be a whole human. Like your results just go exponential.
You say that.
That's what I say.
Well, I know.
That's my answer.
That's a good snippet right there. I'm like, ooh, that's another good snippet right there. Oh, another good snippet. So we got lots of good nuggets out of that one.
Good nuggets.
At that same group that I was at last night, one of the ladies there was talking about the dealership she worked at. She works at a Mercedes dealership here in the Houston area, and he has just reached billionaire status and his 40th year in business. And she said it's because he pours into his people.
I mean, there you go.
It's simple. It's that simple. He pours into his people.
It's simple and not easy, because we have all been conditioned to compartmentalize, and you've got your work self and you've got your home self. But we all know too, there's a full many generations, below our age in the workplace. They don't know. They're like bringing their whole selves. So better get on the train and learn how to interact with a whole person. They are not just the tasks, the roles, the results, but they are the feelings, they are their values, they are their vision and purpose. And how can you start tying what's important to them to the organizational purpose, so that there is like more skin in the game and higher levels of engagement? The way we talk about emotions is They're just energy and motion. You know, when you mentioned my series of emotional wellness books for children, it's why I really created those for adults because children get this. Emotions are energy and motions. And then adults, we forgot that. We got that conditioned out of us that we must compartmentalize. So when we're working with leaders and training them on these skills, we just say, don't step over anything. So someone gets emotional in a meeting, just take a moment and acknowledge it. We don't need to get into it and analyze it and do therapy, but the human part is to not step over it. Give them a moment, acknowledge, I'm acknowledging that this is tough for you right now. Silence is a skill that we could all grow our capability in. And once you've acknowledged it, something will shift. There you go. Snap or snap. Once you acknowledge it, something will shift in the person. Because ultimately, I think we just all want to be seen and acknowledged. And then we can move on. Then we can move on. You know, maybe the person does need to excuse themselves. That's fine. But like they are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. But don't step over the fact that they're a human.
I was even thinking, I was watching a reality show the other day, and the woman lost her son to suicide. And, so super heavy topic. And she was trying not to cry, but she was with another person there, and she all of a sudden started to cry. And the other person just, they're not even trained from what I know, but they acknowledged it and said, it's fine. You take as long as you need. And I just thought that was interesting that she didn't say, oh, don't cry or it's okay. She just acknowledged it, let her take a second and cry and kind of regroup herself. So it's interesting that you say that. And I like that you gave the example of if somebody's in a meeting and they start crying to acknowledge it and just shut up.
Shut up. Just shut up. That's all. Yep. You know, that wait. Why am I talking? It's a great thing for all of us to be asking ourselves. And maybe for some of us, we do need to have our voice out there more and speaking up. So, but I know for me, the WAIT acronym, why am I talking, is super helpful. Creating space for others to come in and just for that silence, because it's through the silence that some of these really incredible, innovative ideas come through. And we need to facilitate spaces that allow for that. Again, moving from surviving to thriving, that's all part of it.
You're saying holding space and creating space. What does that mean? Because I think some people who've never experienced coaching are like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. I mean, it's the example you just gave of the TV show where you saw holding space is really being a witness of someone else's experience versus coming in and trying to fix it or make it about you. Maybe you're trying to make it about you because you think you're coming from a place of care, but it's manifesting in like, oh, well, here's what I did when I was in your situation, or like giving them unsolicited advice when really they're just letting the air out of the tire and need to move the energy with the emotion. And so holding space is developing the muscle to witness without having to do anything. And the other part of that is what I call the coaching mindset. And in the coactive model, we have a cornerstone that the model sits on. And I said these words here today that people are naturally creative, resourceful. So this is like a philosophy or an orientation that I'm always operating from. I mean, now in my life, it's not just when I'm coaching or leading or training. I believe that we are all whole. We are all creative. We all have the ability to access resource and creativity within ourselves to move our situations forward. Are there some people in my life that I've experienced who have done a shitty job at that? 150%. Some people have greater access to their resourcefulness because they've cleared the path. They've done the work. Maybe they've had more opportunity, because of the advantage they've had in their life to go pay for the therapist, to go take the course, to get the coach, right? Not everybody has access to all of that. but I think innately we all are creative and resourceful and whole. And this is a mindset that in my life has helped me heal very toxic dynamics and relationships. Practicing, I also say it's a practice, holding people that way has helped me liberate many of my relationships.
I love that. I I guess you're saying clearing, and it makes me think of, over the last several months or so, I guess over a year, I've been working on a lot of the energetic and spiritual cleansing, I guess, if you want to say that. I don't know if a lot of people will understand what that means, but just kind of getting it back in balance where it should have been. And you and I did a values mining exercise recently, which was really interesting because I pretty much knew what my values were, but going through your exercise really helped me understand why and where they came from. And so, you hear people say a lot of times, oh, you got to focus on your why, because when the times get tough, focus on your why. And it's like, I had a why, I thought, until we went through the values mining and I understood where those values came into play. And it's like, that's my why, that layer underneath. So, yeah, I've got the vision why, but the one that's going to get me through is the underneath the values why. So that was just mind blowing. So if anybody's trying to figure out their values, they need to hit you up. And,
Listen up. We also have a meeting workshop for organizations, so we can do this with all your people, and it's a game changer.
it is. And I actually want my team to do it to figure out their values, because I think you behave in certain ways. Huh?
We'll come in and do a session with your team. Let's do that. Let's have Uplevel come in session with you.
They would love that.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
Tired of overpriced energy drinks full of junk? Same. That's why I use Babello, a self-carbonating hydration packet that gives you clean energy, electrolytes, and vitamins without the crash. Just add water, shake, and sip. It's way more affordable than typical energy drinks and way better for you. Use code ChristieBernal15 at checkout to get 15% off at drinkbabello.com. Hydration just got an upgrade.
because we behave sometimes when we don't realize that one of our values is being trampled on. And, during our session, I was able to look and go, holy crap, my value is being trampled on, and I didn't even know it. And
Yes.
that's why I behaved this way. And in the long run, it did not serve me well. And
Yes.
so I just thought that was really cool that, you hear the word values or the phrase values mining, and you're like, okay, yeah, we're going to figure out our values. Every company has their mission statement and their values and their vision statement. But most of the time, it's surface level crap.
Total crap. Total
And
crap. Because it's a two words on a piece of paper that maybe sound good. Some, wonderful marketing person came up with it. It's not actually innate and in the bones of the system, of the ethos, the whole essence of the organization. Saying it's not coming from the essence, the ethos, the bones of the individual. And that's where we need to mine for them, because it's like you're describing it, it's our foundation. It's our come from, our orientation. It's where we're living and breathing from. And if you're trampling on your own values because of the lack of awareness, and then someone else is trampling on your values, I mean, you're going to be in a perpetual state of frustration, of lack of fulfillment. I mean, these are the things that can lead to other mental health issues, because we're not honoring our foundation and what we stand for and believe in and what matters most to us.
absolutely. And I know people will, uh, they'll look at it and say, well, I can figure that out on my own. And, like I said, I
No.
thought I had my values.
Yeah.
And I was pretty close. But again, I didn't understand the why. So it was like way more valuable. I can use it more intentionally now. And I'm all about intention. And even the way, all the things I've learned from you guys over the last many years has even shaped how we help people build their brands and architect their brands, because we come at it from that more whole person side of things. And now that I've gone through your vision mining session, now it's like, ooh, it's even better now.
Going to a whole other level, right? Because it's like again, it's more genuine and real, and I think all of us are hungry for that. Like we're so tired of the screens, and we're just starting the wave of AI, but we really want to know what's real. We want to hear truth, and our bodies know when something is real and true. You know, like this is for everyone who's listening. It's like, when do you know something is true and real? What's your indicator? What's yours, Chrissy? What
Uh,
happens for you when you know something's real?
well, I'm still figuring that out per se, but I know when I know something's not real, usually my chest hurts or I get flush or sometimes maybe like heartburn type of thing. There's some sort of physical reaction that now that I've gone through
Yeah.
my autoimmune issues, I'm more aware of every single sensation in my body, whether that's my hands start to tingle or you and I were talking about it yesterday. The right side of my face started to get red on something, and it was like, that's a specific reaction. So yeah, just I pay attention to what my body's telling me, and you've said it over and over again that your body will manifest what's going on inside you. And disease causes disease. Yeah, you've had so many nuggets of wisdom around that.
Well, and so that's a great place to look. It's like, okay, I'm not sure when I know it's real, but I know when it's not real. Like this is what happens for me, right? And it's going to be a little bit different for each person. But like for me, when I'm hearing the truth, something that's real, my whole body vibrates. It's like a buzz, and this like sensation of yes, that more of that, because it's like it's real. And I think as humanity, we're longing for that. Our nervous systems have been so inundated over the past 5.5 years with chaos, crisis, trauma, drama, and people are like, where the heck am I in all this? And so a message is like, get silent, ground yourself, tune in to your body, listen for what's important to you. You do know, and it is helpful to have a guide like a coach or a person who can be a witness to unearth those things, but unearth those things and choose baby steps each day that have you align more fully to your foundation and your guiding principles. Because this is what's needed in order to like rebuild our world and kind of come out of the state of whatever the heck this is.
When you said that, it made me think of, I can't remember the particular universal law, but it's essentially this group think. And I feel like we are in such a polarized time that so many of us are just getting in this group think and not just on one particular side, but we're so stuck on this group think that we're not, one, aware of our own actual values, and two, we're not even open to hearing anybody else. And I feel like if we would just, like you said, stop, get silent, figure out our own values, then
Yeah. Yeah. And move from that place. And we don't need to like respond to everything. Like that's another thing is, yeah, we don't need to. Again, like this seems to be a theme in our conversation right now around silence. It's like doing nothing is doing something. Choosing not to respond and being silent is a response. And it feels like it would be helpful for more of us to take a minute and choose some silence. Because the real virus that has been out there has been this polarization. And it's just a new flavor for, every 6 weeks that we get to separate more. And I'm hoping more and more people can slow down enough to see that and tune into that, because that's really, I feel like what we're up against.
absolutely, 100%. And how if somebody's saying, okay, I don't know how to be silent, what are some
Yeah.
simple ways they can start to practice that?
Yeah. I mean, start with 1 minute. Start with 1 minute. Put the timer on your phone and just sit for 1 minute and add a minute each day. Do it for 30 days and see what happens. I mean, there's so many resources now, but like we just keep it simple using your phone and sitting still for a moment. And for a lot of people who are like in offices and it just feels like I can't get a moment, I always just say the bathroom stalls are like the best places to recover, to restore to your values, to take a breath, to take a moment, and just before you go back into that next call or that next meeting, like ground ourselves.
Yeah, I love that you say that because I have been in public situations, public business situations where I've had to take a moment because I was identifying that a value of mine was being trampled on. So at this particular location, there was a place where I could walk on the sidewalk for a few minutes. And I was just like, I'll be back in a few minutes. And I just needed to go.
Right. Right. So there's that also the embodiment piece of like getting away from the desk and the computer, moving your body. If you can't get outdoors, even doing laps, in the building, a couple of flight of stairs, that is going to help you get to a different neural pathway. And then nature is our absolute, like it's the most important piece of medicine that we have gotten so far away from. But just taking a moment to be in nature, to listen to the sounds, to take in the colors, that too will shift the neurology, give you new access, new creativity, new resource to go back to the situation.
100%. I know in so many other countries, and even here a long time ago, that was what the doctors prescribed. Go outside.
This season of the Uplevel podcast, we've been exploring right relationship, which
Yeah.
is really like derived from indigenous cultures. And so we've been talking about like all different characters but then applying this context of right relationship. But our indigenous guests, that's what they're really teaching us is like back in the day and still within their ecosystems, they'll prescribe nature. They'll prescribe silence. They'll prescribe rest. They'll prescribe good, nutritious food before they give you a pill. It's like these are the things that are indigenous to all of us.
Yeah.
And it's how we got here and how our lineage and our ancestors got to this moment.
Well, and it's quantum entanglement. It's the universal law of oneness, where everything, the universe and our bodies, and we are so magically created. It just blows my mind more that I like think about just touching a tree and how that is like recharging me and energizing me and just how amazing we were given a gift that just touching a tree can do that. What a special gift.
Yes. And we have so forgotten it. And it's free and it's accessible to everyone.
Exactly. I know that I can tell the days that I haven't grounded as much, or use my grounding mat, the big difference. And, with all the things, and you talk a lot about breath work as well. And I know a second ago I inhaled and exhaled and I used the heck out of breath work.
I love breath work. I feel like that's the next frontier from a leadership development standpoint. There are some of our clients that have dedicated breath work rooms for people because they understand the science behind this. And it's like essentially we're just moving ourselves out of our sympathetic nervous system, which is fight, flight, freeze, to our parasympathetic nervous system, which is I'm not under attack by a saber-toothed tiger. I'm actually okay. I can navigate the situation. And that's what the breath allows us. And for many of us, our breath has become so shallow and we're not utilizing our a design of the instrument of the body and the lungs the way it was designed. So we bring a lot of that into our work. especially these up level off the shelves, these smaller bite-sized virtual experiences, really reintegrating people back to these very simple practices that are accessible anywhere, anytime for anyone.
I know. I mean, there'll be times when I'm in a crowded environment, but I can feel my anxiety is starting to take over, and so I can do some box breathing or of some sort of breath work that nobody notices I'm doing. And it was funny because I've been doing this breath work for a while, and finally Joey has started to like understand all the stuff I've been talking about for a long time. And one time I was doing it in the car because the Houston traffic, oh my gosh, it's so refreshing. But he was like, "Oh, that's what you're doing when you do that." I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah, it's like, yes, baby, it's what I'm doing, and I want you to do it too.
So that's amazing. Yes, when they catch up, it's like, ah. And it really just changes.
And yeah,
My job's done, but it changes the energy just in a home, because then you can say, okay, I'm going to go do some breath work because I'm really stressed out right now. Or, I know this is going on with me today. So I'm just going to give you a warning that I'm working through it today. Or it's just being aware is helpful. And I've even, taught Sienna some of these things that I've learned from you. And, she does the fists of anger when she's mad. She knows how to do the breath work. And I've told you this before, she's one of the most emotionally intelligent people I know. And it's because of me sharing with her what I've learned from you. And that's so valuable, because it makes her feel like she's got control of something, even though many of the things in her world aren't in her control. She can't control that she's missing parts of her brain. She can't control that she can't hear, and she can't control that she's so small. And it's like there's so many things she can't control, but she can control her emotional intelligence and how she responds.
well, I'm just remembering how we got connected. It was Courtney Kramer. Her and I were both internal at the Coactive Training Institute at the time. And I shared with her that I was about to launch The Adventures of Little Sass, this emotional wellness children book series. And I was looking for a partner, someone to help me. And she said, "You have to meet my friend Chrissy. You always remind me, this has helped me as a mother, or it's helped me as a business leader, it's helped me as a partner." And so thank you for reflecting that. And thank you, Courtney, for having this strong intuition. I always say Chrissy is my midwife of my most important work, which is the Little Sass work, because I want more adults and children to have access and awareness and a responsible relationship to their emotions, so that we're not getting all of these suppressed troubles, things coming out the wrong way. We just know the science behind it. It causes so much dis-ease physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And so anyways, I'm having a moment, full circle moment of like appreciating Courtney for connecting us. Thank you for always acknowledging the impact the work has had on you. And thank you for helping me birth the work and ensuring it gets out there and it can have the impact, because without you, none of this would have happened. That's true.
Well, I appreciate that. And I received that. Thank you. I know that's something we've been working on, is me being able to receive. So I received that. And, one of the things that I discovered last night was, somebody asked, "What do you want?" And it wasn't, "What do you want?" It was, "What do you really, 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 really want?" And what it boils down to is impact. And I know that you and I both want lives touched, lives, impacted in a positive way. And so working with y'all helps me fulfill my dharma. I'm assuming it's part of my dharma. So,
Yeah.
well, if people want to connect with you or Lil Sass, or how can they find you?
Yeah. So I'll point them to www.christiemann.com. And I'm sure this will all be in the show notes, because I know you produce my podcast. So it's all there all the time. Thank you. And then if you want to learn more about the cool work that we're doing inside of organizations, uplevelproductions.com is where that work is housed. And then Lil Sass, LIL lsass.com. That's where the books home are. But of course, you can get them on Amazon. And just tune into our podcast because we're always exploring really, I think, hot topics and hoping people walk away with tools, contacts, resources, tips, and context in how to up level through these times.
I would definitely concur that your podcast would be a great one for people to listen to. I mean, it was listed as one of the top 10 coaching culture podcasts in the world, so that's a pretty big deal. But-
Congratulations.
And it even with all the knowledge I've had from working with y'all for the last several years, I still learn stuff from your guests. So there's always more to learn, and so yeah, your podcast, the Uplevel podcast, would be great for people to listen to. So.
Yeah. And I mean, there's always more to learn. It's never ending for, I think, each of us. And those of us who are really committed to a growth path, like it doesn't, the more you know, the less you know. And oh, I need to go learn about this. You're learning about quantum physics. I've gone down the rabbit hole of ancestral lineage healing now. We'll see where this takes us. I'm so grateful to have a partner like you who is dedicated to her growth and evolution.
Yeah, that's awesome to I guess realize too, is that's the importance of surrounding yourself by people who align with your values and also want to grow and whatnot as well. So that's a wonderful way to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining me. I know we could talk for hours because we have before.
We can. Yeah. Well, thank you to your listeners. This was supportive and helpful. And congratulations, Chrissy, on this newest iteration of your purpose. It's beautiful to see.
Thank you very much. Well, again, I appreciate you, and I will see you back on the show, I'm sure, again sometime.